you for being here tonight.
No pressure.
Amazing.
All right, Mary gave us cards. So we figured we would do like an interview kind of session. There's dynamics that happens between grass.
Oh, you missed it.
Oh, sorry. Not my expertise. We thought we would try to show a little bit of the dynamics that happens between grassroots leaders and champion legislators. Not your typical lawmaker, but champion legislators. So yeah, we've got some questions here that we thought might be a little fun to go through and kind of give you an inside view of what happens as we're fighting for these things. So the first question is pretty fun, I think. It says, who are your favorite lawmakers, living and dead? Pick one. One living, one dead.
Okay. This is easy. Congressman Thomas Massey from Kentucky. He showed up just before I first ran for office, and I learned about him. It's like, that's the guy I want to be like. The dead lawmaker would be Thomas Jefferson, the one that wrote the Declaration of Independence. It's been my favorite for many years. He penned those words, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. There's a quote, though, I'd like to share with you and with everyone here tonight. Do not seek to follow in the footsteps of the wise men of old. Seek what they sought. And that has been my motto and the model that I've tried to follow. I don't want to just be like Thomas Jefferson, Ben Franklin, George Washington. I want to seek for the things that they sought. I want to be like them. And I guess I like to think that what I'm doing here is a continuation. It's not like they were a long time ago, but I am just following the same thing, doing the things that they were doing, looking for the same things.
I know mine?
Yes. What are
Okay.
yours?
Okay, my favorite dead lawmaker. Is that the question?
Yes.
Lawmaker, I was afraid I were a politician. Don't have any of those, but Bill Richardson. Does that ring a bell?
Senator from California.
Yes.
He wrote the book Confrontational Politics. Has anyone read the book Confrontational Politics? A few people. He also wrote the book What Makes You Think We Read the Bills?
The book is amazing. It should be accountability politics. You know, it's really the method that we use with Hoosiers for Life and Liberty Defense PAC. It's keeping these guys accountable for what they are supposed to be doing.
So is he still living or is he died?
No, he passed away.
Okay, so who's your favorite living politician?
Lawmaker, not politician.
Lawmaker.
You, of course. All right, question number 2. Why did you want to run for office in the first place?
Well, one day we walked into a Dairy Queen and Monica Boyer came up to me and said she wishes I'd live in Warsaw so I could run for state representative. So there you have it. She was the one that meeting that Mary was talking about with a lot of people. Monica was the one that put that together. So look what you got started. I think Mary mentioned that I just wanted to be the representative that I wished I could have had. And there's another quote, the only thing required for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. And as long as we sit around and do nothing and just let the powers that be, the establishment, run the show, let them pick their candidates, then we're just going to keep getting the same thing that we've always had. Can I ask you do you want to run for office? Or can I ask you, what made you want to start Liberty Defense PAC?
This is not on the card.
That isn't.
Good gravy.
Should we start with who's this for life, because that came first?
Abortion. Stop murdering babies. It's a travesty. Stop doing it. It shouldn't be legal. And so, yeah, when I discovered that that happens here, there was a point in my journey that I didn't even know what happened here. That's how ignorant I was. And thank you, Monica Boyer. So, yeah, that's what got me started in politics. It was a move of God over a very ignorant heart that said, hey, wake up, I want you to see something. And when I saw it, I couldn't turn away from it. So, and that's when I met you.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and from there, I don't know, we just keep on going. So here we are. I'm next, right? Okay, how do outside groups help you do what you do on the inside?
I could do anything. Okay. I could do the same thing, but it'd be totally worthless because I wouldn't get anything done. But by having the outside organizations, the people on the outside, the grassroots, by you communicating that to the people, that gives the power. That's where the power is. And so yes, I can vote on things, I can offer amendments, I can file bills, but unless there's somebody on the outside that's pushing it, there's very little I can do on the inside.
So I have more power than you.
Absolutely you do. Oh, no doubt about it. But by working together from the inside and from the outside, we can shift that box of political reality. And I would say, does anyone know what I'm talking about when I say box of political reality? It's okay to say that here? It's the things that could happen. You know, there's, I won't go into that, but we have certainly moved the box. Just, we got through 2 weeks of session. You know what they're talking about in Indianapolis? Constitutional carry. It passed out of the House this week. They're talking about trying to end the governor's state of emergency. They're trying to compromise their way out of it, but they're still talking about it. And they're talking about medical freedom. People want medical freedom now. It's a pretty weak sauce that they're offering us, but they're talking about it. They're talking about it. We're moving that box of political reality right now. 3 of my 4 top issues came through in the first week.
What is the Liberty Caucus huddle that we've got next?
Okay.
All right, and how did that come about and how did it help you?
Okay. So a year ago, Representative John Jacob got elected. And it changed a lot. It changed everything. Now, John Jacob, when he got elected, he owed the establishment nothing. If he owed them anything, it was pain and suffering. and he has been really, really good to work with. So, yeah, we, especially while we're in session, we will get together at least one night a week to plan for the week ahead. And depending on what's coming up, we will call in other activists or group leaders that are helping on specific issues for that week. And that has helped us to plan and get ahead. And I think it's kind of interesting to use the word caucus. Mary used the word caucus on this paper. Because the Republicans have a caucus, that's what they call it. But about a year ago, the speaker explained to me that it's his private club. And he can invite whoever he wants to his meetings for that. And so for the past year, I have not received the invitations to that private club. Now, I was in that caucus for 6 years. I've been out of it for 1. I highly recommend it for anybody. Highly recommend it. frankly, that's where they take you to a room, lock you in a room, tell you that what goes on in that room stays in that room, and then they yell at you if you don't go along with whatever the big man up front wants to do at any time. So, yeah, highly recommend. If all of you who are going to get elected, there is another way there. There is another way. Should I be asking you a question?
I don't know, what do you got?
Well, same things as you.
I don't have a question.
What's the worst thing that you have been called while you've been fighting for liberty?
I've been called the double T. Do you know what that is?
Truly terrific.
The first T is a traitor. So that was like, oh, okay.
Terrorist? Wow.
And my first thought was, oh, that's awesome. I'm gonna get a T-shirt, and it's gonna say terrorist on it. And I thought, no. Don't do that. So, yeah. What about you?
Well, it was in my first year when I just wanted to vote for religious freedom, and someone came up to me and said, "You are so effing selfish," except they didn't clean it up the way I just did. There's been, many others. Well, shoot, even before I got elected, they must have seen something coming. The opposition put out a postcard. First postcard, treason. Don't vote for Nisly. It was to tear up the United States. The next one was don't vote for Nisly because he doesn't believe in the Constitution. It was everything that I was running on. It was messed up. There was another postcard. Don't vote for Nisly. He's too liberal and too confused. So just give me a preview. And then there was the empty high chairs because I want the babies to die because I don't want the state going into churches and regulating them if they have a daycare center at that church. And so therefore, what's one whole baby? So those were all things that happened beforehand. There's another one. So just yesterday was the Martin Luther King resolution. And every year Representative Vernon Smith gets up and gives a talk on Martin Luther King, remembering the things he did. And after the first year, I walked up to him and I said, "Hey, can I put my name on that resolution next time?" I did. He's a Democrat. Yes, Democrat from Gary. And I asked him, "Can I put my name on that resolution next year?" And he said, "Absolutely." I said, "Is there any problem like having a white guy on the MLK resolution?" He said, "No, we'd love to have you." And so the next year when the time came, I asked to be on it. And then every year since. So last week when we came to session, first day, I went up to Vernon Smith, said, "Hey, I want to be on your MLK resolution." He says, "You're already on it." So one time I was talking to somebody in the House leadership, and they asked me why I do that, and I explained to them that I've got personal reasons for doing that. I've got, I think, good reasons for doing it. And they said, "You know that the other Republicans ostracize you because you put your name on that resolution every year." And it's like, I really didn't know that. But when the leader says that, I guess that's what they do. And so I really think that might be I think they've got plenty of other reasons to not like you. But according to that person, that is one of the reasons that they don't like you.
Good job, Curt.
What's the best thing people can do to help your effort?
Outside operations. What you are doing on the outside is the best thing that can help on the inside. Now, that being said, it's nice having a few people on the inside, And I'm glad that there's a whole bunch of you here in this room tonight that are putting your name on the ballot to run to join me in the House of Representatives. So that's also really cool. So, and the rest of you, make a big donation to Amy's Liberty Defense PAC tonight. What's the best thing people can do to help with your efforts?
Well, run for office. Run for some sort of office. If you can't do that, get behind somebody that can. You know, support those that are out on the floor fighting for our liberty and freedom. There's a big difference between lawmakers that put up bills and courageous champs that literally fight for them and do all they can until the policy is seen all the way through. And so support him, support these people that are trying to run and make a difference. Get involved in local politics. Figure out what's going on around you. You know, so those are the biggest things. We have volunteer opportunities. We have a great team. This whole thing has turned out really wonderful. So if you want to work with us, well then, of course. But there's lots of ways to get involved. What's the pressure like at the State House during session? How do you handle it? That's you kind of went high or low.
Sure. All right. Well, the first thing I want to say, my wife made a comment that I was standing alone. And indeed, there were times when I have had to stand alone until John Jacobs showed up. But I also want to make it clear that on many issues, I do work with others. In fact, I have tried to find something that I have in common with each other member in the House, all 100 members. Now, I will say there are a few that just I can't get there. I can't find them. But that's a very few of them. Most of them I can find something that I can work with them on. Okay? But the question is, what's the pressure during session? Well, Gary's tearing his head out. If it were for Gary, it'd be a lot worse. Gary Uppenbaugh here, he does research, he gives me analysis of the bills, the amendments, lets me know what's coming, does a whole lot of other stuff, so thanks, Gary. To the question here, the pressure. So, let's just tell you a story. First session. I'm a freshman. The speaker has a bill about the superintendent of public instruction. He gets down from the big thing and comes to the little one and talks about it. And I didn't vote for it. I told people back home I wasn't going to vote for it. There were 5 freshmen and there were 13 Republicans that didn't vote for it that day. 5 of us were freshmen. 5 were chairman. And the United States speaker let us know that he didn't appreciate that we voted against his bill. And he called me into his office that day and said, you don't know the consequences of your actions here today. You don't know, you could, years down the line, maybe your bills just won't get hearings in the future. Maybe you'll get primary challenges, you just don't know what's gonna happen. And I had watched my other colleagues apologize that day, and I knew that that's what he was expecting, and that was the one thing I was not going to do. Good for you. I do remember calling Mary later that evening, and I was pretty broken. I said, they're breaking me down. I'm watching them, they're breaking down the others, and I feel myself getting broken. And then I remember waking up the next morning and sitting up in my bed and saying, they're trying to break me down. They're going to have to try a lot harder than this. And it was just a few weeks later when the RFRA fix, and I won't go into all that stuff, but it was a pretty intense time, the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, and then the fix that stripped out the religious freedom part of the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. And I was one of 3 Republicans that voted no on that one after serious, intense pressure, where they had us locked in the caucus room like all week long. Wow. Spiritual abuse, Yeah, it was very intense. Now, since then, yeah, there's been other times in 2017 when I did the first constitutional carry amendment, and I appealed the ruling of the chair, and I didn't have a second, even though I had 6 people lined up to second it that day. No one said the word second. I thought I had failed that time. And then the next time there was a caucus meeting, there was a big long stir to try to get me kicked out of the caucus. I'll tell you a little story there. Former Speaker Bosma was the one that stood up for me in that one. He said in his younger years he was a part of getting someone kicked out of the caucus, and it only seemed to empower that person. So he was not going along with getting me kicked out of the caucus back in 2017.
We should have invited him here.
He resigned in July of 2020. John Jacob came in November of 2020. The new speaker apparently missed that suggestion. It has been empowering. Awesome. I've got a question for you. What's the difference between a legislator and a champion?
Kind of what I said before. You know, a legislator, they have the power to file bills. They have the power to create a conversation. You know, at one point in this walk, I thought that was a really big deal. You know, when people said, oh, you know, I'm like, I'll file your bill for you. I've had people file bills for me that had no intention of ever fighting for it. It's just for political gain. It's for to save face to the voters. It's to look good, knowing that it's just going to slip right off into the trash. So a champion, is that what you said? A champion will fight for the legislation that you want. I mean, it's blood and guts. I mean, I've seen him go out on the floor and literally fight tooth and nail to get policy passed. He gains nothing from it. It's our freedoms and liberties. It's for the preborn. And so there's a huge difference. Anymore, it's, you know, somebody says, I'm gonna, here, I'll just tell you right now, Zach Payne, he's gonna love this because he's gonna see it. Representative Zach Payne is a co-author of our Protection of Life bill this year, and everybody thought that was a great win. But I'll tell you what, until Zach Payne goes out on the floor and he fights for those babies, it means nothing to me anymore. It's just a signature. Until he can get out there and lock arms with him and John Jacob, it's just a loose promise. You know, and so we got a lot of that. 2 champs in the House of Representatives, Curt Nisly and John Jacob. Not Jacobs. It's Mr. Jacob. So I know everybody wants to put an S and make him bigger. He's a great guy. But yes, Jacob. Take it in Nisly. Okay, so it says, well, there was 2. Do you want to explain about Baby River? Because we've talked about kind of, you know, some hard things, but let's talk about a victory.
Yes, yeah, big victory last year. So, Baby River was born in a hospital north of Indianapolis a few years ago. Baby River was born a few days before viability. Viability is the standard that was set by the Supreme Court in Roe versus Wade, saying this is when life begins. And after life begins, they then shouldn't kill the baby, but it's okay to kill the baby before life begins, according to the opinion of the justices in Roe versus Wade. So, now we didn't have any laws regulating it in Indiana, although in our abortion code, if a baby survives an abortion, they were required to be given life-saving care and given a birth certificate. But in Indiana, if a baby just survived birth, there was no requirements for that. And so the hospitals built their policy around Roe versus Wade to say viability is the time where we're going to start taking care of that baby. So because baby River was born a few days too early, they didn't provide the care. They wouldn't even let the parents take baby River and transport it to another hospital. But they just let baby River sit on the table, lie on the table for several hours until baby River finally died. So Hoosiers for Life were the first people that told that story that I'm aware of. I don't know of any other media or anyone else that ever told that story.
Yeah, Baby River's parents got a hold of Brooke, actually, I think, and we went into their home and listened to this incredible, it was so heart-wrenching story. I mean, the entire family just sobbed the entire time. It was very difficult, and we promised that we would do all that we could. And, yeah.
So, fast forward to sometime in 2020 during the legislative session, we were looking for a place to put the baby River.
We have tried in the past, right? We have put it in our protection of life bill.
Yes, it was in our protection of life bill, and for 2020, we knew that, okay, we've got some weird rules in the House of Representatives. There's that bill pending rule, that if that was in our life bill, then they would call bill pending on us and rule us out of order for it. So we actually, before we filed the bill, we took that section out of the bill with the intention of bringing it up as an amendment on second reading. So we were scouring the bills to find the perfect place, and we found the perfect bill where it was germane, we didn't have the bill pending, we're good to go. All we're doing is taking the code from the abortion code and put it in the hospital code. Say, this is what we should do. I offer the amendment. Chairman Leonard makes a point of order. He thinks it's out of order because of something, germaneness, whatever. And the speaker agreed with him. And so, I think it was John Jacobs said the words, I appealed the ruling of the chair, which means now it goes to a vote for the entire House to decide if that was the right ruling, if it was germane. If 51 or a majority of the people in the House would have voted yes on that, it would have been germane to the bill. So that was
just
the vote.
a second. And what the amendment did was, in the state law, it said that if a baby survives an abortion, you have to give it life-saving care. But if a baby survives birth, you don't. And so that was the difference. That's what the amendment essentially said.
That's what the amendment said, yes. And the amendment also said, without regard to gestational age, which we're defining a baby as being a person before viability. Okay? So we challenged the ruling of the chair. We got our vote. There were 3 members that voted for it. It was John Jacob and myself. And Bruce Borders that time was the one. And so we got our vote the next day.
Yes.
The next day, Hoosiers for Life started telling the story of this vote and how all the other members, all the Democrats, and almost all the Republicans had voted against life. Wow, did things start flying. Within 10 days, they found another bill in committee and put our language into it. Now, they did water it down a little bit, but they put it into another bill in committee. It came out, passed through the House, passed through the Senate, signed by the governor on July 1, 2021. It is now state law that if a baby is born too early, that they have to be given life-saving care and a birth certificate.
Yeah.
So that is the example of how to get stuff done. That is one way to get stuff done. I can tell you a dozen ways so far to get stuff done. That is one way. That one has such instant results by just challenging it. Everything that we bring, they will rule out of order if they can at all stretch it.
You got 4, right? Didn't you prepare 4 bills, 4 different bills, so it would, in an attempt to make it go through? Capital? Did you double down and have more than one?
Yes. Oh, I know what you're saying there. Yes, I know. When they brought that next bill through, their cleanup bill, we put 4 amendments on that bill and got a series more of roll call votes.
Cool.
All right.
2 more questions.
Okay.
Okay, so what does your re-election or campaign look like?
Okay. So, as state representative, we are up for re-election every 2 years. We have 2-year terms. It's good. I like it that way. We are the people's house. We have relatively small districts, and we have 2-year terms. So we're responsible to the people. If the people don't like what we're doing, you have the opportunity to replace us. Back in the 1920s, there was a time when the House of Representatives in Indiana went from 90 members of one party to like 80-something members of the other party in like a 1 or 2 cycle thing. And I've often wondered what that's about, and I think I've kind of figured it out, but there was something that happened back then, and there was a big change over in the House of Representatives. I think we might see something like that happening right now. You were asking about what my race looks like?
Well, Miss Mary, she's saying yes.
Okay, so we have new maps this year. Every 10 years, we redraw the maps for population shifts. And when the new maps came out, there's one place in the state of Indiana where there are 2 current representatives in the same district. Can you imagine that? Can you guess where it might be? It's in Kosciuszko County. So this is clearly the establishment's last big chance to take me out. They couldn't get me to quit. They've tried to primary me. They have tried to get me to quit. I almost did. And now this is the last big chance to take me out. And from what we can tell, they are serious about it, like deadly serious about it. So I do think this is by far going to be the toughest re-election ever. That being said, I feel a little sorry for Craig Snow. Because I know what my supporters are willing to do.
No snow in May.
No, sir.
So that's what it looks like. Yes, yeah, we have our campaign planned out. We have a budget for like 3 times as much as we've ever spent on a campaign before. The money is coming in. We're not quite there yet, but we're getting close. So we're moving ahead with our plans with it. But you know what? The most exciting thing is the other candidates that I see stepping up here. And you know what? I can take some yelling and some all that stuff to see the other candidates. And you know what? In those years when it was pretty lonely, I often have the thought that I am willing to do this if maybe someone that comes behind me doesn't need to go through this again.
So what about these candidates. Have you met them all?
Have I met all the candidates? I don't know. I think I've met a lot of you, but I'm not sure.
How many are there?
Well, there's quite a bit. All right, so what we're going to do next, we're just going to bring
Okay.
State House Rep candidates up. So State House Rep